Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Enter the Abyss.
Welcome, everybody. I am drinking Broken Skull IPA.
Oh, you got the Broken Skull out.
Yeah. Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA, by the way.
Oh, the wrestler's making beers now, huh? I think I fucked up because this is not a beer. So this is a dark, sweet cherry lemonade. That's fun. Cool. Well, I mean, I've said on the podcast many a time that I go for the can, and when we went to Nevada to stock up on beers for the following weeks, this can looked really cool, and cracked it open. Doesn't smell like a beer because it's not a beer. So I guess I'm going with a hard lemonade.
Yeah, we never told our listeners we almost died in the desert out there because we were driving back, and I went to go look down at my gas gauge, and it was like 35 miles. And there's like literally nothing for a long expanse from Wendover to Utah. And we were already like 30 minutes in. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, when's the next town? It was 31 miles away and we were at 30 miles in the tank.
Yeah, I wasn't even worried. I mean, Clete was all worried the whole time. I was like, no, we got this.
Not
we
true.
Got this.
Not true. We got there with just 1 mile in the tank. However, I looked when I got home, and apparently the Toyota tank has like another 30 miles in it, so we were panicking over nothing. But again, I wasn't even worried. So
yeah, we weren't worried. And it wasn't even it wasn't even a mile, dude. I think we had like a quarter of a mile because it was on a mile when we hit the exit, and we still had to go through. It was, I don't know, it was weird. Like you couldn't have timed it more perfect by saying, "Holy shit, we need gas in 30 miles." And I looked it up, and there's a gas station 30 miles. It was. Yeah, it was fun. I wasn't worried.
Yeah.
I don't think Clete was worried a little bit, but we had a trunk full of booze in the middle of the Nevada desert. It was, it's one of those days, just a typical Tuesday.
Yeah, dying in the desert made me think about the M Cave mystery, which is what we'll be going over tonight. We're going to be doing this a little bit differently, so let us know if you like it or not. Britt and I will be kind of taking our turns at going over the story. It's one that is close to my heart because I really enjoy the content here. But let's jump in. Let's go. It's a moonless night in the Nevada desert. The only sound is the wind whispering through the canyon and the crunch of gravel underfoot. In the darkness stands a man peering into a cave shaped like the letter M. His entire body trembles with an unexplainable vibration. Fear grips him. He turns and flees into the night and vanishes.
Welcome, folks, to Enter the Abyss. I'm Britton, here with Clete, and tonight we're diving into a case that blurs the line between reality and the unknown. It's a story that starts with an internet comment and ends with a haunting question mark.
That's right. In this episode, we explore the M Cave incident, the baffling disappearance of Kenny Veach. It's a case that has everything. A mysterious cave near a top-secret military base, an eerie warning from an anonymous stranger, and a man who walked into the desert and never came back.
This is a true crime-style deep dive, yet it feels like a desert legend. We'll start with Kenny's life and the discovery of the so-called M Cave, then walk through the day that he disappeared. Along the way, we're going to unpack the major theories swirling around his mystery, from government conspiracies, paranormal possibilities, to psychological explanations. Finally, plain old natural dangers.
We'll also bring in expert opinions and real cases to shed light on each theory, and even share some listener theories from internet sleuths who have followed this case obsessively. So, get ready for a journey into the Mojave Desert's most unsettling mystery.
And remember, some mysteries have no easy answers.
So, who was Kenny Veach? Kenny was a 47-year-old outdoorsman from Las Vegas, an experienced solo hiker, and a bit of an adventurer. He wasn't just a casual weekend hiker. This guy lived for exploring the desert. In his own words, "I solo hike across mountaintops that most people wouldn't dare go. I have been in more caves than I can count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun."
What the hell? Who plays with rattlesnakes for fun? Like, oh yeah, I like to go out and find a rattlesnake. Hopefully I don't get bit, So that tells you a lot about his fearless personality. I mean, he even mentioned that he'd been doing this for over 20 years, climbing cliffs, finding skulls and old traps out there in the wilderness. He bragged that he always makes it back, and had only ever needed rescue once, when he blew out his leg on a mountain and ran low on water. So he had confidence and a solid track record in these extreme conditions.
Exactly. By all accounts, Kenny Veach knew the risks of the Mojave Desert and embraced them. He often went alone with minimal gear, just testing his limits. He even ran a YouTube channel under the name Snake Bit McGee, where he posted about his adventures. That's actually how this whole mystery began, with a YouTube comment.
Yeah, it's crazy because in 2014, Kenny left a comment on a YouTube video called Son of an Area 51 Technician. It was in that comment that he described something incredible that he had found during one of his hikes near Nellis Air Force Base. So let's go ahead and read part of what it was that he wrote.
One time, during one of my hikes out the Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me.
God damn. Off topic completely, but this shit tastes like ass. It is not good at all.
Dude, chug it. Be a man.
Okay. So you're going to go there, huh?
Be a man now, chug it.
I don't even know if I said what I'm drinking. It's called Spanish Marie, and as I said, they just says bottled by or brewed and canned by Spanish Marie. This is fucking nasty. It is horrible.
Well, I brought 2 beers, man. So maybe I got Thumb Splitter coming up next. So maybe you should chug it and grab another one.
Okay. Fuck, dude, that's gross. But just imagine, right, for a moment that you're out in the middle of nowhere. You find this weird M-shaped cave as you're walking around. Your body just starts vibrating, right, the closer that you get. The sensation, so frightening that a hardcore hiker like Kenny panics and runs away. That description gave me chills, and it certainly grabbed the internet's attention at the time. I mean, this is Snake Bit McGee. He plays with fucking rattlesnakes for fun, right? That's intense.
And Kenny's comment lit up the online community. People were intrigued and skeptical in equal measure. Some thought he was making it up, but others egged him on, saying, "You've got to go back there and get a video of this cave." I mean, I would say the same thing. The pressure was on. And Kenny, being the adventurous spirit and maybe feeling he had something to prove, agreed to go back.
Yeah. Everyone's like, yeah, don't be a pussy. Go see it again, buddy.
Be a man and go back.
Just chug the whole thing. Be a man, Cleet says. So, Kenny sets out on a second trip in order to find the M Cave. This was back in October 2014, a few months after that original comment. This time, though, he was prepared. He took along a video camera in order to document everything and even carried his 9mm handgun. Just in case, because I suppose since your first experience freaked you out so much, why not bring a gun with you? Makes sense. He spent a full day searching the same area in the Sheep Mountains where he remembered the cave being.
During that hike, he couldn't find the cave. He did, however, report something odd. He mentioned seeing a black ram, a bighorn sheep, perched on the ridge, apparently watching him the whole time. It's almost ominous, like something out of a folk tale. The black ram on the mountaintop, keeping vigil.
But that detail stuck with me, of course, because a lone black ram tracking him from above, it gives it kind of like that mythic quality, like a bad omen, right? Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. But anyway, so Kenny returned from that second trip completely empty-handed. He uploaded the video that he recorded to YouTube on October 18th, 2014, titled M Cave Hike. In the video, he shows the desert terrain, some caves, and even an abandoned mine shaft, and he talks about his search for the mysterious cave. Yet, there was no grand discovery. He simply couldn't locate that M-shaped cave entrance again, and that's gotta be so goddamn frustrating. Like, it was here, I swear to God, and the internet's like, dude, go fucking get it. and he can't find it again?
Yeah, it is. The internet can be cruel. And the internet let him hear about it. The response to his video was harsh. Many viewers were disappointed or accused him of lying since he produced no evidence of the M cave, but others were still fascinated and encouraged him. Try again, they said. Go further. Spend the night out there if you have to. As if on cue, an ominous comment appeared under his video, a warning that in hindsight feels like a prophecy.
Exactly. So this one user famously wrote, "No, do not go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. If you do, you won't get out again." So it's pretty unsettling, right? Like it's a line from a horror film almost, because the rest of the internet's like, go for it. But you got this one comment that's like, dude, don't go in. You're not going to come back out. Interestingly, though, that comment was later deleted, which only added to the mystery. Who was it that posted that? Did they know something that everyone else didn't? We don't know. However, it didn't stop Kenny.
It sure didn't. Despite the mix of encouragement and dire warnings, Kenny was determined. His pride was on the line, and his curiosity too. He announced he would go one more time, a third trip to find the M cave, and this time he wouldn't come back until he found it. And this is where things take a dark turn. Let's talk about the disappearance. On November 10th, 2014, Kenny Veach set off on his final hike into the Mojave Desert. He told his family, including his girlfriend Sharon, that it would just be a short overnight trip. Nothing long or elaborate, apparently just another routine adventure in his mind. He didn't even give an exact location, just that he was heading out to the Sheep Mountains area again.
He drove out in his truck, headed into the desert on foot, carrying his cell phone, his gun, and some basic supplies. This time, notably, he did not bring his video camera. It's interesting because filming his find was the entire point of going back, but we're going to talk about that detail a little bit later. However, for now, just keep that in mind.
A day passed, then another. When Kenny didn't return as planned, his girlfriend grew concerned. After a couple of days with no contact, she reported him missing. Very quickly, a search and rescue operation was launched. The story even hit the local news. A known hiker disappears looking for a mysterious cave. It was a sensational ring to it, and people were paying attention.
Search teams from Red Rock Search and Rescue and volunteers combed the area where Kenny was thought to be. They had helicopters fly over the rugged terrain and people on foot checking caves, ravines, and mine shafts. Now, this was a huge effort. By one account, over 30 searchers were involved, over multiple days.
After about a week of searching, they finally found a clue, and it only deepened the mystery. Kenny's cell phone was discovered lying on the ground near the entrance of an old vertical mine shaft in the desert. It was November 22nd, 2014, nearly 2 weeks after he set out, when they found the phone there.
The phone being found was a critical clue. It confirmed that Kenny had indeed reached the area that he had intended to explore. He made it all the way out there. As Search and Rescue Commander Dave Cummings told the news, "We found his cell phone close to a very vertical old mine shaft, and we can't find another trail. Doesn't mean that he's down the mine shaft, but we tracked him as far as we possibly can." In other words, the trail went cold right at that mine shaft.
They even investigated that deep mine. Rescuers lowered cameras into the shaft to see if Kenny had fallen down it, but they found no sign of him there. The shaft didn't look disturbed or show any evidence that someone had fallen in recently. So, where was Kenny? There were no footprints leading away, no gear left behind, nothing, just his phone on the ground by a gaping hole in the mine. It was as if he vanished into thin air.
And despite all the searching, Kenny Veach was never found. No body, no remains, no further clues. His truck was recovered as it was parked out there, and eventually his case went entirely cold. It's now been over 10 years since his disappearance, and we still have no idea what happened to him.
What we're left with is an eerie unsolved mystery. A seasoned hiker goes out chasing a strange cave he found once. He's never seen again. The only trace is his phone and a spot that seems to be deliberate marker or a decoy. And overlaying it all is that tantalizing original story of the M Cave, a cave that may or may not exist, which supposedly made his whole body vibrate with fear.
Naturally, a mystery like this breeds theories, and there are plenty to go around. Some are straightforward, some are wild. So let's go ahead and dig into them, and as we do, consider which one that you yourself find most plausible.
We can group the major ones into a few categories: government conspiracy, paranormal or supernatural causes, psychological factors like a planned self-offing, and natural causes or accidents. Each theory tries to answer two big questions. What happened to Kenny, and what was the deal with the M Cave?
We're going to take them one by one, and as we go, we'll bring in any expert insight or similar cases that may or may not support or debunk these ideas. So the first theory is government conspiracy. Yes. We're no strangers to conspiracy, right? We covered an entire iceberg on conspiracy theories, so you should check it out if you haven't already. But the government conspiracy. This theory posits that Kenny stumbled upon something highly top secret, and quote-unquote, they made him disappear to keep it quiet. Given the setting, it's not hard to see why this idea took hold.
Think about it. The cave was near Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, and not terribly far from the legendary Area 51.
Area
51 has been the center of UFO and government secrecy lore for decades. So some people speculate that the M Cave was maybe an entrance to an underground military facility or a testing site for experimental technology. Perhaps Kenny inadvertently found a doorway to something classified.
According to these theories, when Kenny returned looking for that cave, he may have encountered military personnel or surveillance and was simply silenced. The ideas range from the notorious Men in Black style agents confronting him to him stepping on some hidden sensor and triggering a deadly response. Some of them even suggest that he was captured and is being held in a secret base. Or worse. It's pretty out there, but that hasn't stopped all the speculation.
One branch of the theory leans into the Area 51/alien connection. Maybe the vibrating sensation he felt was caused by advanced technology, say an electromagnetic field generator or some underground device. If the cave was an access point to an alien spacecraft or research lab, the theory goes the government couldn't let that go public. It was the flavor of an X-Files episode. Hiker finds a portal to alien base, then vanishes.
Yeah, when that first happened, right, when they were talking about him just getting that vibration, I was like, that sounds like, I don't know, something going off, some kind of sensor, some kind of like, you've been busted for seeing what you shouldn't see.
Yeah, a vibration with a twist, a sloppy toppy.
There's even a twist where some suggest that the cave itself might have been deliberately sealed up or hidden after Kenny's disappearance. In fact, some later hikers who tried to find the M Cave reported finding a cave that could fit the description, yet appeared to be walled off with rocks, almost as if someone closed it off on purpose. Another claimed that they found a cave in the area with a restricted area sign slapped on top of it. Now, if those accounts are true, it does raise a few eyebrows. Who would seal a random cave in the desert or put up a restricted sign unless there was something to hide?
However, let's examine the likelihood. We have to ask, why would the military or government go through such lengths? If Kenny found a secret installation, why not just escort him out or arrest him? The most extreme version of this theory is that he was killed to keep a secret. But if that were the case, leaving a cell phone out in the open by a mine shaft seems odd. You'd think the powers that be would erase all traces, not leave a clue.
Also, the geography doesn't perfectly support this theory. Area 51, the Groom Lake facility, is about 20 to 30 miles away from where Kenny was actually searching. Now that's a long distance in terms of a hidden tunnel or a cave connection. A writer on the Strange Outdoors blog pointed out that it seems unlikely that the M Cave was directly connected to Area 51, given that distance alone. So, the idea of a secret base right there might be more imagination than reality.
Still, the region does have some military history. That area of the desert is dotted with old mines, and apparently some were used by the military for dumping chemicals in the past. There have been reports of people finding odd debris or sensing danger in that remote zone. And remember, it's noted as a place with a reputation for illicit activities, even rumors of it being a dumping ground for murder victims unrelated to the government. So strange and dangerous stuff isn't entirely off the table out there.
With the absence of evidence, the government conspiracy theory remains popular, but speculative. It's the kind of theory that thrives on what we don't know. Did Kenny find an entrance to a secret bunker? Did he see something that he possibly shouldn't have? Those who favor this theory say yes, and that we'll likely never know because the truth is locked up by the authorities.
One thing's for sure. The mystery of the M Cave wouldn't loom so large if it wasn't near such an infamous... Oh, God.
Infelice? Did you just fucking stroke out, buddy?
Shut up. One thing's for sure. The mystery of the M Cave wouldn't loom so large if it wasn't near such an infamously secretive region. The government angle gives people an explanation equal to the strangeness of the story. But, as of now, there's no concrete evidence backing it. No whistleblower has come out to say, "We've caught the guy near the secret site." Nothing leaked. Just conjecture.
It's tantalizing to think about, though, and it segues into a related set of theories that sometimes overlap with the conspiracy idea, the paranormal, because maybe it wasn't human officials that Kenny ran into at all. Maybe it was something otherworldly.
All right, let's buckle up and jump into the paranormal or otherworldly causes. Yeah. I'm going to be drinking some thumb splitter for this.
Oh, he's cracking open the second beer. So thumb splitter from what brewery? You got to announce the beer, dude. You can't just crack it open and drink it.
It's from Great Notion. This is where things get spooky. Many armchair detectives and paranormal enthusiasts speculate that the M Cave incident wasn't a run-of-the-mill disappearance at all, but something beyond our scientific understanding.
Some posit that the cave itself had a supernatural quality. For example, could it have been a sort of portal or gateway? Perhaps an entrance to a different dimension or a realm where Kenny is now trapped. It kind of reminds me of like Agartha, like down there with the T-Rexes and Hitler, you know?
Yeah, just
King
some type
Kong.
of gaping hole.
It sounds fantastical, of course, but people have floated ideas like time warps or interdimensional doorways. The fact that his body never turned up gives fuel to those theories, like maybe he quite literally stepped into another reality.
Others think aliens might be involved, separate from the government conspiracy angle. Given Nevada's UFO lore, one theory suggests Kenny encountered extraterrestrial beings or technology in the cave. The peculiar vibration he felt could be explained as an alien energy field. According to this idea, Kenny might have been abducted by aliens or met some extraterrestrial fate in the cave. Perhaps the M wasn't an M at all, but some kind of symbol or doorway connected to UFO activity.
It's not an S on my planet. It means hope. It's a Superman reference, bud.
Okay.
I don't know. You like to talk about Bruce Banner all the time, so I figured I'd throw out a superhero thing. But then there are the theories about local folklore or cryptids. The desert around Nellis and the Mojave has its share of legends. People talk about strange creatures or spirits in remote caves all the time. One chilling thought from some forums, what if that black ram that he saw wasn't really a ram? In Navajo legend, skinwalkers are shapeshifters that often take the form of animals. A black animal watching him could, to a believer, signal a paranormal entity marking him. If one wanted to spin a yarn, you could say that a malevolent spirit or curse was guarding that cave and ensured that Kenny wouldn't get out if he returned.
It's a stretch, but these ideas show how imaginative this discussion has gotten. The ominous warning comment, "Don't go in, you won't get out," almost takes a supernatural tone when you think about it in this context. Like something in this cave wanted to keep people away, or someone who knew about it was trying to save him from a fate beyond death.
So let's go ahead and introduce a bit of science here, because interestingly, some real scientific phenomena might lie behind experiences that people interpret as paranormal. Specifically, let's talk about infrasound, low-frequency sound waves below the range of human hearing. Researchers have found that infrasound can produce very unsettling feelings in people. Everything from anxiety to dread to the sense that your body is vibrating. Hey, I think we've heard that before. In some haunted house investigations, they discovered a standing low-frequency sound wave that caused people to feel that sense of fear or to see the ghostly apparitions due to their eyeballs vibrating slightly. I didn't know that, actually. It's kind of crazy that like some haunted houses would like just shoot that low frequency wave and like make you kind of agitated and anxious.
No, they say a lot of paranormal sites are from natural phenomena like that. Low frequency sound waves. Now consider Kenny's description.
My whole body began to vibrate.
And an intense fear overcame him. This is exactly the kind of thing infrasound can trigger. If there was something about that cave, say a particular wind pattern, or an underground ventilation from the nearby base, or even natural geology that produced a low-frequency hum, it might have caused a physical reaction. It would feel mysterious and frightening if you didn't know the cause.
Now that's a great point, because some have speculated that maybe natural infrasound emanating from the cave, like imagine wind thrumming through a narrow tunnel like a pipe organ, would explain why Kenny felt what he did scientifically, without needing ghosts or aliens as a scapegoat. Now, in this scenario, Kenny's initial experience was real, but not supernatural. It scared him off because of physiological effects.
If that's true, it still leaves the question, what happened to him on his final trip? Infrasound might explain the cave's spookiness, but not his disappearance unless one argues it caused him to become disoriented and have an accident, which crosses into the next theory category.
So, staying with the paranormal explanations for the disappearance itself, some say that maybe the cave was cursed or protected by something that got him when he returned. Perhaps an unknown desert cryptid or an angry spirit of the mountain. These theories are very speculative, of course, and there's no evidence of anything like that, just the absence of evidence of what did happen, if that makes sense. Now, people fill the void with creative ideas all the time.
One popular paranormal-ish line of thought ties to the missing 411 phenomenon. For listeners who might not know, missing 411 is a series of cases of people disappearing under odd circumstances in wilderness areas, which some attribute to unknown forces at play. Kenny's case, with its weird cave and its proximity to odd sites, tick a lot of those boxes. Missing person, no remains, strange prior event, even an animal, the ram, acting oddly. Those who follow the missing 411 theories might say Kenny's disappearance is another instance of whatever unexplained force causes people to vanish in nature without a trace.
Every time I hear the 411 stuff, I just think of how we met David Paulides, and you're like, you should come on our show. And he's like, you guys suck. I'm not going to.
You need like 10x more.
He's like, you need to be way bigger before I'd ever consider your show.
He was nice about it.
No, he was nice. And his talk was really cool. His talk was way cool. But that is creepy, right? Whether it's aliens, portals, curses, or an undocumented natural phenomenon, the paranormal theory lane is certainly riveting and gives the story a life of its own on forums and throughout YouTube. But like the conspiracy angle, it's largely based on inference and imagination. We have no concrete proof of anything supernatural there, just an eerie feeling and a mystery.
And that brings us to the theories that, while perhaps less sensational, might better fit the known facts. Namely, did something about Kenny himself, his state of mind, play a role in this tragedy? Let's talk about the psychological factors and the possibility that this was, sadly, intentional.
Which leads us to Theory 3, psychological factors, whether it's a hoax or an intentional unaliving. Now, not every mystery is a conspiracy. Sometimes the simplest explanation, however heartbreaking, is the true one. In this case, one of the leading theories is that Kenny Veach's disappearance was the result of unaliving. In other words, he intentionally went out into the wild to end his life, making sure that he'd never be found again.
This theory gained a lot of traction when a person claiming to be Kenny's girlfriend, Sharon, posted a long comment on his YouTube video after he went missing. She provided insight into Kenny's personal life that wasn't widely known before. According to Sharon, Kenny had struggled with severe depression for many years. She said his depression had gotten worse in the months leading up to his disappearance.
Even more telling, she revealed that Kenny had spoken about suicide in the past. He had allegedly told her that if he ever decided to take his own life,
nobody would ever find me.
In other words, he would go to a place so remote that his body would never be discovered. That's chilling, and it casts the entire story into a different light.
Sharon wrote that she believed Kenny did exactly that he went out into those mountains intending not to return. She noted a couple of suspicious details. First, as we mentioned, he left his video camera at home on the final trip. For someone who had been determined to document the cave, not bringing the camera suggests that he was no longer really planning to film anything. Secondly, she theorized that Kenny left his cell phone by the mine shaft deliberately, so that no one could track him via the GPS. Essentially, she felt like he was planning a false trail and then going off grid on purpose.
According to her, Kenny loved the desert deeply. It was his favorite place. If he was going to end his life, doing it out there in the wild where he'd had so many good memories made a sort of poetic sense to her. She said, outright, "I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he committed suicide." Now, it's incredibly sad, but this is coming from someone who knew him intimately.
If this is true, the M Cave and all the mystery might have been more coincidental. Perhaps Kenny really did find something weird out there initially, but his subsequent actions might have been driven by a deteriorating mental state. The timing is interesting. His comment and the attention it got were in the same year he disappeared. It could be that the internet reaction actually added pressure and emotional turmoil for him.
Some have even gone on to theorize that Kenny fabricated or exaggerated the M Cave story as a sort of cover or a legacy before ending his life. Now, the idea here is that he knew if he just vanished normally, it would be a blip in the news. But by creating this eerie mystery, he sort of lives on in legend. In a way, that's exactly what's happened. However, there are counter-arguments to this theory.
One blogger pointed out if Kenny's plan was to disappear and never be found, drawing massive attention to himself with a viral story is counterintuitive. Why make yourself more famous on the internet just before vanishing, ensuring that thousands of people would then actively look for you? Without the M Cave story, his disappearance might not have become such a big deal outside of local circles. The blogger theorized that if suicide was the case, it might have been a spur-of-the-moment decision during the trip, rather than a long con planned from the start. Maybe he really did go out intending to find the cave, but got frustrated or despondent, and in a moment of despair decided to end it. We just don't know.
It's also worth discussing another angle, the possibility of a hoax or a staged disappearance for attention. Now, it's slightly different from suicide, of course, but Kenny's sister-in-law, Susan, had expressed the belief that perhaps Kenny faked the entire thing. She told one interviewer that in her view, the M Cave was not there, implying that he made it up, and that he did it for attention, essentially suggesting that he faked his own death. She did find it suspicious that there were no photos of this cave and thought that Kenny might not have anticipated how much media attention the story would get.
That's a pretty bold claim from a family member. If he did fake his own death and disappear intentionally, that would mean he's potentially alive somewhere off the grid. However, there's zero verified evidence of him existing beyond 2014. No credit card use, no sightings, nothing. It would require him to survive out there or start a new life completely hidden from society, which seems unlikely. Still, her perspective shows that even within his circle, there were doubts about the veracity of the M Cave tale.
And let's not forget Kenny's personal circumstances around that time. He had quit his job only a year before he vanished. There are also hints that he was trying and struggling to make ends meet. In one of his last YouTube videos, which is outside of the cave story, he filmed an audition for the TV show Shark Tank, pitching some invention in a rather desperate bid. He also tried to sell his house in an arrangement where he'd keep living there as a caretaker. It's insane. It's unusual. Now, those things suggest financial or personal stress. If you add that in to the long-term depression, it paints a picture of a man who may have been near a breaking point.
All of these details lend weight to the psychological theory. It could explain both the lack of physical evidence because he hid himself too well in the wilderness, and the initial bizarre cave story, which either was true but tangential or embellished. It's a somber theory because it means the story's intrigue came at the cost of a man's life.
And tragically, if this theory is true, the quote-unquote mystery could be solved in a prosaic way. He's out there somewhere, having taken his own life, and the desert just hasn't given up his remains. That area is so vast and difficult that it's entirely possible a body could go undiscovered, especially if he deliberately hid in a cave or a crevice.
Sharon basically urged people to stop looking for the fantastical answer and accepted the likely truth that Kenny was gone by his own choice. She also cautioned anyone who still wanted to go search for either Kenny or the cave to be extremely careful, citing how dangerous the terrain is and how you need multiple days to search thoroughly. Her message was part grief, part warning, and part closure attempt.
Yet, human nature being what it is, not everybody accepted her story. Some had even questioned if the girlfriend comment was really written by her or if it was some attempt to steer the narrative. However, most signs indicate that it was genuine. She provided details only someone close to Kenny would know, and her voice comes across as sincere and heartfelt.
In summary, the psychological theory suggests that the M Cave mystery might not be a mystery at all, but a personal tragedy. However, because we lack final proof, Kenny's remains, or a definitive note, it remains just one possibility. Meanwhile, another very plausible scenario is simply an accident of nature, which we'll dive into next.
Which leads us to Theory 4, natural causes or an accident. Now, sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely, as we've said before, and in missing persons cases, especially in wilderness areas, the majority end up being accidents or misadventures. Many followers of this case believe that Kenny met with a natural accident out in the desert.
Let's consider the setting again, the Mojave Desert, specifically the Sheep Mountains north of Las Vegas. This is a remote, rugged wilderness. We're talking about scorching daytime temperatures, freezing nights, cliffs, hidden mine shafts everywhere, and absolutely no cell phone service. Even though Kenny was experienced, he was taking big risks. He often hiked without GPS or even a paper map, relying on memory and instinct. That's a recipe for disaster if anything goes wrong.
Search and rescue professionals have pointed out just how easy it is to get in deadly trouble in that terrain. Now, if you twist an ankle or break a leg out there by yourself and you're suddenly in a fight for survival, dehydration can set in rather quickly. Kenny himself recounted a near miss where he almost ran out of water in 100-degree Fahrenheit heat and had to be helicopter rescued. So, even with his bravado and experience, the guy was just not invincible.
The accident theory basically posits that Kenny likely fell victim to the harsh environment. Perhaps he accidentally fell into a hidden shaft or crevice that searchers couldn't detect. Remember that they found his phone by one obvious mine, but there are countless smaller holes and pits in those hills. If he ventured into a cave or shaft and got injured or trapped, that could be the end. And if no one knows to look in the exact hole, he'd remain there indefinitely. There have been cases of missing hikers found years later in hard-to-spot locations.
If you don't know which exact hole to look into, it can be a daunting experience. Dehydration or heat stroke is another possibility. Maybe he left his phone at that spot intentionally or unintentionally, then continued exploring and became disoriented or collapsed from the heat. The desert is unforgiving after all, and if he succumbed to the elements, scavenging animals and time could scatter remains to the point that a search team might miss them. It is grim, but very plausible.
Another angle is that he might have encountered an unforeseen hazard. The area is known to have some dangerous human activity. We mentioned rumors of drug traffickers or even criminals using the desert for dumps. It's not impossible Kenny stumbled across something illegal, like a hidden drug lab or smugglers, and met with foul play that way. That wouldn't be a government conspiracy, just bad luck crossing paths with dangerous people. Though, like all others, there's no evidence of that either. Just one more possibility.
Now, when you think that his gun was never found either, it's possible that he had it on him wherever he ended up. If he fell and got hurt, having a gun wouldn't save him from, say a 60-foot drop or dying from thirst. And if someone did harm him, they might have taken the gun or it's lying out there with him somewhere.
The official stance leans toward this being an accident. The local authorities never found any evidence of foul play. After the exhaustive search turned up nothing beyond the phone, the assumption, by many, that Kenny likely got lost or fell and just hadn't been located. In fact, one of the rescuers said, on record, that the most likely scenario is he fell into an unknown mine or crevice or succumbed to the elements. It's mundane, but it fits the scenario of so many wilderness disappearances.
And to illustrate, consider other cases. There are hikers who weren't found until years later, often by chance. For example, people have gotten lost a mere few hundred yards off a trail and simply weren't found in time. The desert, much like dense forest, can hide you very well. If Kenny went truly off the beaten path, which he always did, he could be in a spot that's nearly impossible to find without a stroke of luck.
And remember, hundreds of people have gone out looking for clues after the fact, both authorities initially and later amateur explorers drawn by mystery. If you were lying out in the relatively open view, odds are someone would have stumbled on something by now, given the sheer number of eyes that have looked. The fact that nothing has been found might suggest that he's in a very concealed location, like a deep hole under rocks or far beyond the primary search zone.
It is sobering to think that the simplest explanation, a mere accident, is also the saddest in some ways because it means Kenny died out there, likely scared or in pain. And he's just waiting to be found someday. No intrigue, no cover-up, just a simple misstep in a deadly place.
On the balance of probabilities, many investigators favor this accident theory or the suicide theory over more fantastical ones. The phrase Occam's razor comes to mind, the idea that the simplest solution tends to be the correct one. Here's the simplest solution, is that Kenny either chose not to come back or tried to but couldn't due to an accident. Both don't require secret bases or aliens, just unfortunate reality.
And yet, the accident theory doesn't fully satisfy some folks because it doesn't explain the original M cave part of the story. If it was just an accident, we still have that tantalizing unanswered question. What was the cave that Kenny found that scared him so much? Was it real? If so, why has nobody else definitively found it? Or was it simply a product of imagination or misinterpretation?
That remains a mystery within the mystery. Despite numerous searches, no one has confirmed the existence of the M cave Kenny described. Some hikers found caves that vaguely fit the description, like one small cave, nicknamed Spider Cave, and has a similar shaped opening, but nothing that matches Kenny's vivid account or the strange vibrating sensation. And remember, the phone was found near an ordinary mine shaft, not an M-shaped cave, implying he might never have located the original cave on that final trip either.
Now, it's possible that the M cave was real, but very well hidden. Maybe a narrow opening that's easy to overlook. Or it might not be in the area people assumed based on his video. If he had no GPS and was going off memory, his recollection of where he found it the first time could have been off by miles. We might have been looking in the wrong place entirely.
On the other hand, there's a chance that the M cave was a bit of creative license or exaggeration. Perhaps Kenny did find a cave that gave him an odd scare, maybe a minor earthquake tremor occurred, or maybe he felt infrasound from the wind. But in telling the story online, it got embellished, or he might have hallucinated the sensation if he was dehydrated or tired that day. People do experience strange things alone in extreme environments.
Now, we're likely to continue wondering about the cave until someone finds something out there that matches his story. As of now, it's an unsolved piece of the puzzle. And that unsolved piece is what elevates this case from your standard missing hiker story to an enduring mystery.
So one of the last sections we'll talk about is the community theories and reactions. So one aspect we wanted to include in this episode is the voice of the community, the amateur internet sleuths, our listeners, and online theorists who have been captivated by the M Cave incident. This case gained traction largely because of online buzz, so it feels appropriate to hear what others think about it.
Over the years, discussion forums like Reddit, YouTube comments, and even dedicated mystery blogs have been filled with theories. We've touched on the main ones, but folks often mix and match elements to come up with real novel scenarios. Now let's share a few interesting or out there theories that we came across from that community.
This is my favorite. Kenny encountered a hidden cult or group in the desert, the Cleat cult. And one person on the forum speculated that maybe a secretive group, not necessarily the government, was operating in that remote area. Could be survivalist or a cult, and that Kenny stumbled upon their domain. In this scenario, they might have killed him to protect their secrecy. This theory is pure speculation, but goes to show how people try to find human-driven explanations aside from the military.
I mean, it's not that far-fetched. There's some weird cults out there that do weird shit, so...
The Cleat cult is very respected, though, so...
You made this guy disappear, so... The second theory was that the cave was a portal to another dimension. Now this one comes straight from the high strangeness corner of the internet. Some commenters, half jokingly of course, half seriously, wondered if the vibrating feeling was because the cave was a literal doorway to somewhere else. Either another time, another dimension, you name it, and on Kenny's third trip he actually went through it. Now it's a wild idea, like something from the Twilight Zone. There's obviously no evidence for this, but it does highlight how mystified people are by the lack of physical evidence.
Here's a listener theory. Kenny never found the cave again because it only appears under certain conditions. This theory suggests maybe the cave is real, but not always accessible. Perhaps a shifting of rocks, or it's only visible at a certain time of day or year, when the shadows align, or if a camouflage door is left open. Some drew parallels to folklore about hidden doors in the mountains that open on schedules, bringing to mind stories like Alibaba or fantasy tropes. Again, it's imaginative, turning the cave itself into a mystical object.
Now this theory talks about the walled-up M cave, which was discovered after his disappearance. Because we mentioned it earlier, some YouTube explorers claimed to find an area that could have been the M cave, but someone had sealed it shut with rocks. People in the comments of those videos went crazy with conspiracy talk. The government sealed the cave after they took Kenny, or there might be something in there they don't want us to see. No one has unsealed such a cave, and attempting to could be illegal if it's on federal land or dangerous. So it does remain hearsay. But if true, why was it sealed? It adds an entire new layer to debate.
Another theory is Kenny is alive and watching all of this. There's a subset of people who think Kenny might still be out there having faked his disappearance. They imagine he could be living off the land like a desert hermit, or that he started a new life elsewhere, possibly enjoying the mystery he left behind. It is a bit romanticized and not strongly supported by facts. If Kenny were alive and saw how famous his story has become, one wonders if he'd ever reveal himself. So far, nothing credible suggests he's alive, but until his body is found, some will hold out that sliver of possibility.
I mean, it's just like Elvis, man. He's just chilling in Vegas.
I swear to God I saw Michael Jackson, but I was stuck. I was stuck in a bathroom stall.
So this theory says he was taken out by an unrelated desert danger. A few folks pointed out the desert and its mundane killers. Rattlesnakes, which he loves to wrestle with, mountain lions, mine gases, you name it. One commenter theorized that he could have been bitten by a snake, ironic given his username and snake wrangling bravado, and succumbed far from his phone. Or that he simply fell into an old mining tunnel that had pockets of bad air, like CO2 or lack of oxygen, and lost unconsciousness. If that happened deep inside a cave, his remains might be far from the surface, shielded from search efforts.
All these theories, ranging from logical to fantastical, show just how this story grips people. Everyone brings their own imagination to it, and it's interactive in a sense. Countless YouTube videos, podcasts like ours, and threads invite the audience to speculate. It's almost become a collaborative mystery that people piece together bit by bit, even if it's just in theory.
We even saw a theory that perhaps the end cave was named M, not just for its shape, but possibly stood for something like Mystery Cave or Mirage Cave. Someone joked it could stand for Military Cave.
That's hilarious.
Right? Don't go into this a military cave. Another said that maybe it's an M as in the Roman numeral for 1000, implying something about a secret project 1000 or whatever. Man, these theories get insane. Now that one's a real deep rabbit hole, but it is amazing how a single letter can spawn such crazy ideas.
At the end of the day, what all these community contributions show is a collective desire to solve the puzzle. People emphasize with Kenny, or they're fascinated by the idea of an undiscovered cave. It's like everyone wants to be the one who connects the dots to find the clue that others missed. And who knows, maybe one day a hiker or an explorer will stumble on something, a bone, a rusted handgun, or the fabled M-shaped opening in the rocks, and will have answers.
Until then, the online discussions will continue. The M Cave incident lives on as a modern mystery that anyone with an internet connection can join in investigating. It's like a campfire story for the digital age, with Reddit detectives as our camp counselors.
Well, let's wrap this up. So here we are at the end of our journey into the Mojave mystery of Kenny Veach and the M Cave. And what strikes me is that for every question we tried to answer, 2 new questions appear.
We've laid out a lot of information and theories. Kenny Veach, an experienced yet risk-prone hiker, disappears without a trace. A mysterious cave that he claimed to find. Is that cave legend or is it real? Theories are government cover-ups and alien forces versus very human tragedies like suicide or a fatal fall. A girlfriend's heartfelt explanation versus an eerie warning from a stranger online. Hundreds of people searching, yet only a cell phone was ever found as a clue. Now, despite all this, we still ask, what really happened to Kenny out there? Was it something extraordinary or simply a misadventure that turned fatal?
If it was a government secret, it remains a secret. If it was the Cave of Doom, no one's found it again to confirm. If it was depression, we might have to accept a sad story and not a thriller we want. And if it was an accident, nature's sure is keeping its secrets well. The desert isn't giving up anything.
Now, one thing is for sure. Kenny Veach's story has become a cautionary tale. Whether about the dangers of the wilderness, the lure of internet fame, or the power of mysteries that captivate us. Now, I'm not sure. Maybe it's all of the above. I can tell you one thing, though, that if I ever decide to go hiking, I'm not going alone. I'm going to check to make sure I have everything, and when I go on the trail, I'm having my camera, my phone, and everything included.
It also makes you think about the mindset of someone like Kenny. He was brave, maybe to a fault, chasing something unknown. Did that bravery cross into obsession? And did that obsession cost him his life? That's a thin line between the intrepid explorer and a cautionary statistic, and tragically, Kenny may have become the latter.
Now, as we often like to do, we like to turn to our listeners, and what do you think happened? We've heard theories from all sides tonight, but we want to hear from you. Do you yourself lean towards the idea that Kenny encountered something bizarre and conspiratorial? Or do you feel in your gut that this was a personal choice or a tragic accident? Maybe you have a completely different theory we didn't happen to cover.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this. Let us know if you want to hear more in-depth investigations into a specific topic. This was our first one. The M Cave is a very favorite of mine. But yeah, I'm glad that you stayed till the end of the story.
And as always, we want to give a very huge shout out to our paid supporters of the show: Soylent Cleat Feet, Curtis and Lara, Mothman, Lara, Conklin family, and Lou. Your continued paid support of the show is tremendously helpful. And if you yourself would like to join these amazing people, there are links below in which you can choose several tiers, as well as a link that will take you to a one-time donation to the beer fund, where Cleet and I will venture out and buy some beers to drink on the show.
If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.